Day shift and night shift. Which one's better? Let's get into it in this video. Welcome back to the channel. For those of you who are new, my name is Pierre Lafore and this is the new Nurse Guidebook. The purpose of this channel is to help new grad nurses live healthier, wealthier, happier, more fulfilling lives. So, you're about to start your first nursing job and you're looking, what should I work? A day shift job or a night shift job? 9 times out of 10 as a new graduate, especially if you're trying to go in the emergency department or ICU, you're gonna have to work a night shift job, but sometimes you get a choice. And so I wanted to kind of parse out the nuances between the two as somebody from my experience who's done both. Again, this is my opinion, this is my subjective experience, this is not fact or law or anything, but if you find value in it, then I'd like to share it with you. Maybe you learned something new out of it. So we got day shift and night shift, pros and cons. So I'll kind of run through the pros and cons from my experience, what I've seen. So with night shift, you're gonna typically have a more chill workflow. What does that mean? You're typically getting your evening meds and you're doing a bed bath, maybe line and tubing changes if you're in the ICU at night. But aside from that, you're just kind of keeping the patient alive until the daytime. They're sleeping, so you don't have to worry about them eating or getting up and working with physical therapy, occupational therapy, anything like that. Typically on night shift, you're not gonna have any annoying administration. So people with clipboards who justify their job's existence by coming and bothering you. Sometimes, that's my personal opinion, depends on the job. Everybody has a role, supposedly. You're gonna get increased money from it, so you're gonna get a differential. You typically don't have family at the bedside. Oh my God, I sound terrible for saying that I don't like having family at the bedside, but sometimes you don't like it when people are watching over your shoulder doing your work. And especially as a new graduate, it can be like, you get a little bit of performance anxiety sometimes. You're still learning things and I don't want to, So I understand that. Bed baths, I really enjoy bed baths, which sounds weird, but it's cool because you get to fully assess your patient. It's a cool workflow. If they're intubated and sedated, you can play some jams and some music, and it's fun. It's a great way you get to see the wounds. You get a really full, intimate picture of your patient and what you're working with. You have more time to learn about the whys. So like Googling and having more time to go in depth on, your IV medications and why you're giving them and what mechanisms they work on, and brushing up on more material. You have that time and that pace to be able to kind of think more about it and devote more time to learning the why. You get more time to hang out with your coworkers and chit chat. Usually you'll have some downtime once you've caught up on all your tasks. And you can eat at your workstation. But yeah, that's one thing that can be a bonus. And then night walks, that's something I do. On my breaks, I'll typically go out for a walk because I eat at my workstation, and it's a good way to get off the unit and clear your head, and good mental health thing. Cons of night shift: bad sleep hygiene and rhythm. So you're gonna have terrible sleep hygiene with it. Like, I'm very meticulous and particular about my sleep. So things that I do, maybe I should make a video going into this separately, but I'll touch on it. I keep everything pitch black at night, and caffeine intake, I moderate that. After midnight, I don't drink any more caffeine. But the bottom line is night shift, regardless of how well you optimize, you will have poor sleep hygiene, and you learn to just kind of get good at it and work through it. You have limited provider coverage, so depending on the size of your facility, you're going to be limited by the amount of doctors or nurse practitioners you have covering at night. And even if you're a big academic facility, you'll usually have a doc, a nurse practitioner, a surgeon, but they're covering for 6 or 7 units. So if you need orders, you need to page them for it. You don't just have them readily available. Typically on night shift, you do less interventions. So, you're not going to be pulling lines normally. You're not going to be discontinuing chest tubes and pulling chest tubes. You're not going to be getting your patient up to walk to the bedside commode, which is a plus in some ways. So just less interventions as a whole, starting new medications. Unless something's hitting the fan, you're going to have less interventions, which also means less hands-on and learning. It's hard to have a social life. If you're working, Monday night, Tuesday night, you're off Wednesday night, and then you work Thursday night. Like, what the heck am I gonna do with a Wednesday night off? You might as well pick it up because all your friends are asleep and everything. And so it's difficult to balance having a social life, because if you work your night shifts in a row, for those 3 night shifts, you're usually dead to the world. Midnight munchies, I'm big guilty of this, Once 3 a.m. rolls around, those graham crackers and peanut butter are looking mighty tempting. So it's another thing that can happen. And you can get bored sometimes when it gets, I'm gonna say the no-no, where it's quiet and slow. So yeah, making sure you have something to do with your time. I think this is a pretty good snapshot of night shift. Now let's see the other side of the coin on day shift. So the pros to day shift, you have a lot that you learn from doctors. I'm the type of person where if I don't understand something, I'll go to the doctor and say, hey, why are we doing this intervention? Like, I don't understand. Like, yeah, I'm not too proud to admit I don't know everything. Could you explain this to me? And almost 9.75 times out of 10, they're more than happy to teach you, and you get to learn so much more. You got a pharmacist there. You can ask the pharmacist, hey, what's up with this medication? And they are geniuses at explaining medications, recent articles, receptors, they hit everything. It is awesome. I was BFFs with the pharmacist. I loved picking their brain and learning about medications. You have lots of interventions. You're going to be discontinuing your lines. You're going to be pulling out chest tubes. You're going to be walking your patients, which can be a pro and a con. You have physical therapy there working with them. You have occupational therapy there. You have music therapy if you're a bougie hospital like the one I worked at. You have good sleep hygiene. So you sleep from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. and you usually get good sleep. The one downside is when you get off of a day shift, if you have friends who are still awake, they might be staying up awake later. So let's say you get off work and you get home at 8 p.m. and your friends are hanging out and you want to hang out with them from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. And that way you're kind of dinging into your sleep, which makes it much more difficult to wake up for a shift at 6 a.m. But I find the sleep is better, but it is much harder waking up for a day shift than it is waking up for a night shift. So yeah, day shifts typically go by quickly because you're constantly doing stuff with your patients. You're doing all these interventions, go, 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 go. So that's really nice. You start off your shift at 7 a.m. and next thing you know, it's 12 and you haven't even eaten lunch yet, but you're working the whole time, so it goes by a lot quicker. Lots of cool procedures at the bedside, whether a doc is placing a line or they're doing an open skin fasciotomy or wound care is coming by and they're doing a wound vac dressing change, and you're getting a look in there and see what's going on, and you're like, whoa, that's bone, that's gnarly. Doctors are readily available. So unlike night shift, when I'm paging a doctor, typically on day shift, I can just walk over here and be like, hey, Dr. Johnson, would you mind coming and take a look at the patient in bed space 7? He's having some ectopy right now. His potassium is 3.1. Hang some potassium. And so it's really nice being able to have the doctor literally right there by you. The cons of day shift, it can be very busy and very stressful. It's just bam, 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 intervention after intervention after intervention. You're getting a fresh case patient here, there. So it can be very busy, which is a pro and a con because it goes by quickly, but it also can be stressful because you just feel like you're treading water the whole time. You have annoying administration and management sometimes. My floor, we have awesome administration. Shout out to Derek, if you know, you know. But yeah, you can have annoying administration, Some people are hounding you, why do they have a Foley catheter? And I was like, I don't know, they just had open heart surgery and I don't want them pissing on themselves. You have less money because you don't have the differential. You have to do a lot of moving around of your patients, making sure they get fed, and there's a lot more work involved, and it can be very tasky. Day shift and night shift are both tasky, but they're tasky in different ways. You're just constantly doing things. So that's a little brief synopsis of day shift and night shift. I think as a new graduate, I'm going to share with you what I did, which is a happy medium between the two. Rotating shift. So I was actually very apprehensive to working a rotating shift as my first job. I was like, I'm going to screw up my sleep cycle. It's going to be so hard and everything. But rotating shift is actually really awesome. And I'm personally a huge fan of it if it's done right. What do I mean by done right? I mean you're working maybe 3 weeks to 4 weeks on night shift. So like about a month on night shift, and then you rotate to day shift. The reason I'm a fan of this, if done right, let me have that nuance and caveat, because then you're keeping your sleep in a pretty manageable cycle on night shift and day shift. You know, you're not having to fluctuate every week or every other day. I've heard of horror stories of somebody being like, I had to work a night shift on Monday, I was off Tuesday, and I had to work a day shift on Wednesday, and that's just suicide. I've done it before, but that was because I designed the schedule that way. That was on me. But with rotating shift, if done correctly, you know, every 3 to 4 weeks, it's beautiful. And the reason I say that is because you're really getting the best of both worlds. You're getting the chill workflow pace of night shift, and you're getting to see that and what that care looks like. And then you kind of get through it and you're like, okay, like I've kind of got this down to science and everything. I've gotten to reap the benefits, but I'm also starting to feel some of the cons and downsides of night shift. A month later, boom, day shift. Let's switch up the pace a little. Let's spice it up. I'm going to be learning a lot more. I'm going to be a lot more fast paced. And you know, you have these cons, but ultimately it gives you a fine appreciation for both. And another thing typically is it's difficult to get a day shift job as a new graduate. So if you do rotating, you're getting to know, learn, and see what you like more, night shift versus day shift. In the words of Hannah Montana, you get the best of both worlds. And you know, if you like day shift, then you now know it, and you know it for sure instead of this ethereal other, and you know what you're getting into. So for that reason, I actually am a huge fan of rotating shift, with the caveat that it's done right. So that's my understanding of night shift versus day shift as a nurse. If you learned something new and you've got some value out of it, be sure to like this video. If you know somebody else who would benefit from this video, please share it with them. Don't hesitate to comment and leave me any feedback on any content you'd like me to make in the future, or any ways I can improve my content moving on. Again, this is the new Nurse Guidebook. My name is Pierre LaFour, and I'll catch you in the next one.